In this episode of Ham Nation, Gordo talks all about the General Radio Operator's License, the hows and whys. Don's got all the amateur radio news. Val talks about VP8, PJ, and how to become a storm spotter. Amanda's here with your chat room questions, and I do another segment on getting started with Arduino on digital gate examples. Ham Nation is next. Ham Nation is brought to you from LastPass Studios. You're focused on security, but are your employees? LastPass can ensure that they are by making access and authentication seamless. Visit lastpass.com/twit to learn more.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This episode of Ham Nation is brought to you by Icom. For more information, visit icomamerica.com/hamnation and by DX Engineering. DX Engineering offers practically everything you need to outfit your shack, plus the fastest shipping in the industry. Most in-stock items ship the same day, Monday through Friday until 10 p.m. Eastern. For more information, visit dxengineering.com/hamnation.
This is Ham Nation, episode number 442 for February 26, 2020. Gordo's got GROL. Good evening and welcome to another exciting episode of Ham Nation. Bob is not with us this week. He should be back next week. But tonight we've got the usual all-star lineup, including just to my south, Don Wilbanks.
I'm the unusual part of the all-star lineup. Hey, hello to our WTWW listeners, 5085. They got some great stuff on WTWW. Some awesome music, some of the best disc jockeys that you'll ever find. These are classic guys from Top 40 Radio from back in the 70s. And they're hams, and they're cool guys. You're going to love it. A lot of ham radio related programming, of course, on WTWW. Bob Heil's organ playing is on WTWW. Amateur Radio Newsline's on WTWW. And your requests, too, at WTWW.us. You got something you don't want to let them know? Email at WTWW.us. And we cannot skip the fact that yesterday was Mardi Gras, and it was also Holly Mislin's birthday. Holly is, of course, Ted Randall's lovely wife. And she's much too attractive for him. I have no idea how he did that, but he's my hero. So, Holly, happy birthday. We love you, and we love WTWW, George.
Yeah, that's just one of those great mysteries there, Don. No one has been able to figure that one out yet.
No,
anyway,
I can't figure it out.
Yeah. I actually listened some a couple of nights ago. I fired up the SDR play and enjoyed a little bit of WTWW. That's when disc jockeys really spun disc.
Yep.
Also with us tonight, we've got Val. And Val, it is good to see you back again tonight. What have you been up to?
Hey, doing okay, doing good. I don't know if maybe I drank a little too much, but you guys are all looking a little blurry tonight, or it's my internet. I don't know, but I'm doing good. I thought since he was doing the WTWW, I might do a little shameless plug here for Indexa. For all you DXers out there, this is a great club to belong to. It helps support DX so we can put those rare ones on the air. And one benefit you get when you belong to Indexa is you do get newsletters every quarter. And I am the newsletter editor, so from yours truly. So go ahead to indexa.org, and they're a 501c3, and show your support for DX. I'm going to have a fun little video on some upcoming storm spotter stuff, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Back to you, George.
Okay, Val. Yeah, don't adjust your screen. Everything is normal. We all look a little blurry tonight.
I'm blurry because Mardi Gras was yesterday. That's why I'm blurry. It was Mardi Gras yesterday.
Okay. That's good.
Also, out west, we've got with us tonight the host with the most. Yes, it's Gordo.
Well, thank you, George. It is so good to see you and all of Ham Nation viewers and listeners. And speaking of DX, if you need for your workdoll states, South Carolina and North Carolina, South Carolina, their operation this weekend for the South and North Carolina QSO party, South Carolina Saturday and North Carolina Sunday. And happy birthday, Holly. Well, we had a lot of questions last week about the X Beacon. This is the project that Dave and Heather have presented to all the kids in Arizona as something new to get involved in ham radio rather than just maybe walking around with an HT. And it deals with tea hunting. And Dave and Heather sent me this great operational on how it works, and this one is their more powerful one. And Heather tells me that just a push of a button and their beacon will be great for transmitter hunting. Now, last week we showed you this guy. This is the big one. This week, look what the kids are putting together. I mean, this thing is so small, I don't know if they get right down to the actual board level, but let me tell you, they get down to putting that board together. So the entire apparatus is a T-Hunt. It can be remotely turned on and off. And the T-Hunt device is so small, they've got it that it will fit into a little teeny there you go. It's even making noise on my radio behind me. A little tiny box like that. But this is the best one. If you've got adults that are tea hunting and they may overlook this just sitting on the desk, take a listen to when I just open up the Zippo lighter. And we'll close it. And it's off the air. So if you're into tea hunting or teaching kids and want them to improve their soldering skills down to a micron, the address to take a look at, and Dave and Heather tell me it's all up to date, is x-beacon.org. I may have said com last week, but this week, x-beacon.org, and it comes in a kit form and thanks there, Victor. That was great. Comes in a kit form, and if you're interested in working with kids, this is a great way to go. Well, last week we also talked about the extra class, and the extra class went from 712 down to 622 total questions after July 1st. 239 were modified questions with 49 new questions, and 139 questions kicked out of the pool. Doesn't hit until July 1st. So you either have to study now with the current books or afterwards. But you know, quite frankly, the test is almost identical in being able to study it for about a month to be able to get through it. Now, for those of you that have the extra class license, let's take a look and see what else that you can do with similar type of licenses based on extra class theory. So we'll take a look and see that, first of all, the commercial radio telephone license, which is necessary to work on marine radios and aeronautical radios and certain broadcast stations. The questions on many of the commercial exams are straight out of the extra class book. The extra class book is on the left, and the commercial radio examination for the general radio operator's license is on the right. And the marine radio operator's permit is element 1. The general radio operator's license is element 3. And those two elements back in the old days led to what we call the old first class license, but now the commercial license is called the general radio telephone operator license. And I know you hams out there that had the first or the second class and now it turned into the general radio telephone class. Yeah, we're sort of bummed. The certification is the certificate is not quite as neat as the original FCC one, but nonetheless, it's a great license to have. But why? Well, if you live around the water, small passenger vessels that carry more than 6 passengers that maybe cruise the bay or go maybe a half a mile out to sea to look at the shoreline, they have to have every 5 years a Coast Guard inspection to make sure that their VHF radio at 156 megahertz works properly in case of an emergency. So all of these local harbor cruise boats, if they're within a few hundred feet of shore, they don't need anything, but most of them have VHF marine radio. And your VHF marine radio, FM, is the same type of deal as your 2-meter FM radio, and that is only 10 megahertz difference. To work on the inside of those radios, you need the GROL commercial license, which is based on Element 1, radio rules for aeronautical and marine radio, and the electronics, which is very similar to extra class. In fact, some of the questions are identical on the commercial license. So many flight training operations require at their maintenance facilities that those that work on anything in the aeronautical industry have the GROL license. A lot of your ham radio equipment can actually be used to earn some money with the GROL because these passenger vessels require an every 5-year inspection per the U.S. Coast Guard. So a lot of the gear, frequency counters, deviation meters, your watt meters, your SWR analyzer, field strength meters, and of course a good old voltmeter, that's what you need to go aboard these vessels and spend 2 or 3 hours at maybe $80, $90, $100 an hour, making sure that everything is working properly, just like checking out your neighbor's 2-meter installation. You're checking out a Mariner's 156 megahertz installation. You're going aboard these boats and you're on the clock at close to $100 an hour, and you're looking at the coax, you're looking at the SWR, you're making sure that in an emergency, their call on VHF channel 16 is going to be loud and clear to the local Harbor Patrol or Coast Guard unit. You do have to get behind the panel and look at some of the connections that mariners will make afterwards. Here was a mariner that used a T connector to another radio, and he was surprised when he transmitted that his first radio went poof. So you want to make sure that no one's using a T connector to try and take 2 radios to work off of one VHF antenna. Some installations for high seas operation beyond 100 miles from shore, or in aeronautical installations where the automatic antenna tuner is way in the rear of the aircraft feeding the long wire, you've got to make sure and wiggle back there and double check that everything is soldered properly. This is one about a year ago I did. I just generally pulled on the GTO 15 high voltage antenna wire. It wasn't soldered. Oh, my goodness. But this is what the GROL operator will do when checking things out. We found that it's easy to have a low-cost discriminator meter that can also read deviation. This is a meter that slightly modified shows me 4 or 5 kilohertz deviation for the marine VHF radio service. And yes, marine radio service is going digital, and the digital distress is on 156.525. It sends out a signal, and also on marine VHF digital, that's called automatic identification system. And to work on this type of gear, you need that GROL license. EPIRBs, emergency position indicating radio beacons, they too need your inspection because their batteries have only a few years life before they need to be, by law, changed out. actually more than 5 years, but still, I find a lot of vessels with old expired batteries on their EPIRB. So you're looking at EPIRBs. You're coming in with good equipment that you've been using for ham on marine VHF. You're using on 2-meter ham. It's all the same stuff. So we encourage all of you that if you have your extra, be thinking about getting your commercial GROL license and using your same ham radio techniques of checking out a 2-meter installation, of making $80 or $90 an hour as I do, and going aboard boats and spending 2 or 3 hours checking things out and then signing the official forms that they then show the Coast Guard, and the Coast Guard gives them another 5 years to carry passengers for hire. So all this ham radio training, going all the way to the top for extra class, gets you all primed for the general radio operator's license. And that book is available at all ham stores, available at Amazon, available directly to instructors at a discount at the W5YI organization. So Gordo here is saying, you got extra? That's great. If you're thinking of preparing for extra, either take the test now or take it after July 1st. The pool is the same degree of difficulty of a lot of memorization. They actually threw out some of the real technical questions that required all sorts of computation, and there was only one question in the entire pool. But those of us that teach extra, it would take us almost an hour to thoroughly cover that question. Well, those have been tossed. So it's a whole new, fresh pool beginning July 1st. And yeah, Don's got the book. Yeah, thanks, Don. And he's probably already got the GROL. We'll soon have it. But it's a great license to have if you plan to make a little extra money on rivers, on lakes where it's Coast Guard or Harbor Patrol patrolled. So this is Gordo, WB6NOA. And of course, we hope all of you will give xbeacon.org. Go to that website again and look up all the details. Victor showed it to you. And that way you'll see all of the hard work that Dave and Heather have put in working with all the kids. And let me tell you, this husband and wife team are really making things happen, not only in Arizona, but with this design and with these little transmitters that as soon as you... Yep. And while we don't recommend cigarette lighters for kids, for adults, it's a great way to hone your skills on tea hunting. So now, speaking of Icom equipment, let's go ahead and see what's new with Icom America.
Get out and be active with Icom's new IC705 and its optional multifunction backpack. The IC705 is your perfect QRP companion, as you have base station features and functionality at the tips of your fingers and a portable package covering HF 6 meters, 2 meters, and 70 centimeters. This compact rig weighs in at 1 kilo, or just over 2 pounds, with RF direct sampling for most of the HF band and IF sampling for frequencies above 25 megahertz. 5-volt battery operation with BP272, or 10 watts with a 13.8-volt DC supply. Modes include single sideband, CW, AM, FM, as well as full D-Star functions, a large 4.3-inch color touchscreen, and live band scope with waterfall, integrated GPS with antenna and GPS logger, micro SD card for data storage. It comes standard with the HM243 speaker microphone, and it supports QRP and QRP-P operations. The perfect accessory for the IC705 is the LC192 optional backpack with a special compartment for your IC705 and room for accessories for soda activations or just a day in the park. Visit ICOMAmerica.com/amateur for more information about this and all the great Icom radios. Icom invites you to enter in the weekly drawings for some great swag prizes like T-shirts and hats by going to ICOMAmerica.com/HamNation, and you'll also be entered in the monthly grand prize drawing for a new radio. For February, that new radio is going to be the ID4100A entry-level D-Star mobile with big rig features. It's got a user-friendly display for easier operation, built-in GPS, DV or FM near repeater search function, terminal mode and access point mode, micro SD card slot for voice and data storage, and there's an optional Bluetooth board available, as well as Android and iOS apps available. So go to icomamerica.com/hamnation after this and each episode and register to win. Sign up, good luck, and don't forget to follow Icom America Inc. on Facebook and Twitter. And now back to Smoke and Solder. We are still looking at the Arduino and our introduction to it, get it started programming it. Tonight we're going to look at a logic gate example, and then, we may take off 2 or 3 weeks and look at some other things and then revisit the Arduino Uno and programming it from time to time, because I know there are a good many of you interested in it out there. And, I've heard from you in the emails, and I appreciate it. It's very easy to do. So let's just see what kind of normal digital hardware you might replace with one of these. Here's a website that we've looked at before here on Ham Nation. It's very good for explaining some electronics topics. It's electronics-tutorials.ws. Let's look at an example of a component you might be familiar with, the AND gate. The AND gate is a 2-input logic gate. It's got A and B inputs, and it has a single output, which is labeled Q here in the symbol. This is an equivalent of 2 switches in series. For the input signal to appear at the output, both of those switches have to be made, or both of these inputs have to be high, which would be a 1 or +5 for TTL, or whatever logic level you're working with, to get a 1 out here on the output, or a high signal on it. You can look at the truth table over here and determine that you've got the B and the A inputs and the Q output there. You can see the only time that the output goes high is when both the inputs are high. Let's look at how we would do that in Arduino code. First, let's look at the hardware portion. We have the Arduino setting here, and we've got +5 and ground connections to it from our power supply. GPIO pin 2 is tied to a switch. The other side of that switch is tied to +5 volts. The same thing for GPIO pin 3. It has a switch that is tied back to the 5-volt line as well. These 2 GPIO pins also have a 10K ohm resistor that is tied to ground. GPIO pin 8 has an LED connected across it, and in series I've got a 301 ohm resistor that's tied to ground. Now, normally you might use 250 or something in that neighborhood. I just happen to have 301 ohm resistors handy, and that's what I used. So essentially this is going to operate like an AND gate. Both of these switches have to be turned on so that we're putting a high on both GPIO pins 2 and 3. And when we do that, we're going to put a high out GPIO pin 8, which will light the LED. Here's the code we would use to create an AND gate. The first thing we're going to do is initialize the GPIO pins on the Arduino. We're going to put those right here in the setup section. And there it is. First, we'll initialize digital pins 2 and 3 to be inputs. Pin mode 2, comma, input, in parentheses. Same thing for GPIO pin 3. Then we've got another comment here, initialize digital pin 8 as output. We just say pin mode, parentheses, 8, comma, output, close parentheses, and then a semicolon. And you'll notice all those lines of code there have semicolons on them. That's because this is basically C code, or a variation of C++ that they use with the Arduino. Now, not every line in the program will have a semicolon, but most statements will. You notice these sections here do not have that. So that's got it initialized the way we want it. We're telling it of the 3 pins we're using, whether we want to set them to be used as an input or to be used as an output. Now we need to add something down in the loop section to do the work when the program runs. We've got an if statement because we're going to say if both of these switches are closed. The way we determine that, we use the if keyword, and then we put an expression inside of parentheses. So we've got if digital read 2 equals high. That means if GPIO pin 2 is high, and then double ampersands. That means and digital read 3 equals high. Then we'll execute the next line of code. In this case, digital write 8, comma, high, and you see we've got a semicolon there after it, although we don't use the semicolon on the line with the if. Now, with an if statement, you can also have an else statement. What if that statement wasn't true? What if one of those was not high? Well, then we would go down to the else statement. Under there, I've just got digital write 8, in parentheses, comma, low, and then a semicolon. So what this means, if we loop through here and we see that number 2 and 3 GPIO inputs are both high, then we'll light up number 8. We'll put a high on it, like the LED. Else, if those two are not high, digital write 8, put it low, so we turn the LED off. And that code just sits here and runs over and over and over. To compile it, we click on the arrow up here, and it goes through. Oh, it's found a problem here. Let's see. Too few arguments. And the reason that is because I have the closed parentheses there in the wrong place. Everything that follows that digital write statement needs to be enclosed inside the parentheses. Now let's try that again. This time you can see it compiled and it's already done uploading. It's a pretty simple little program. Let's see how it works. Here's a circuit wired out on an experimenter's board. Just what we talked about. 2 push buttons, both with a 10K ohm resistor going to ground, and the other side of the switches going to +5. Of course, both of those 2 switches are connected. One is pin 3 and one is pin 4. And there's the LED connected through a 301 ohm resistor back to GPIO pin 8. If we press one switch, no result. Press the other switch, no result. Just like an AND gate would be. If we press them both at the same time, we get a high out. Just like the AND gate. An OR gate is another 2-input logic gate. It also has a A and a B input and an output labeled Q. And you can see the symbol on it is just slightly different than it is on the AND gate. It's 2 switches as well, but those 2 switches in the equivalent circuit would be in parallel with each other. And you can see if we had a signal here on the input of it, if either one of those switches was turned on, we'd have that signal on the output. If we look at the truth table, here's the output right here. Got 2 different cases, actually 3 different cases that will give us a high or a 1 out. If either one of those inputs, say A or B, or both of them are high, it's going to give us a high out. What if we wanted to do an OR gate? Well, that's very simple. All we really got to do is change these 2 ampersands for the AND right here to 2 pipe characters. That means OR. And we'll click the arrow button here to upload our code after it's compiled. And it's done uploading it. Now, we can press either one of the two buttons, and we should light that LED. Or we can press both of them. That's the way an OR gate works, exactly. So, no difference here between this and an OR gate. So there's a simple logic gate example on the Arduino. You can make really complex, large variations of that little circuit and do all kinds of neat things. And that's just some very basic examples there of things that an Arduino can do. Now, you probably wouldn't want to use one of those just to replace an AND gate or an OR gate, but suppose you had something you needed to do that you needed 100 gates. Well, in that case, yeah, you might be better off doing it with a microcontroller, and the Arduinos are a great way to get started. If you've never even programmed before, it's not really that difficult. We'll look at that again in the future, but that's what we had for you this week. And just to show you very few lines of code, and you've got a program that actually does something there. Well, now we need to find out what's going on in the wide, wide world of amateur radio news. So here's Donnie.
Well, thank you, George. Fascinating stuff, the Arduino stuff. Very cool stuff. I like that. We'll start off with some sad news. I never like to mention obituaries just because, well, it's sad, but we lost someone pretty special to the ham radio, particularly D-Star community. Connie Ballantyne, KB0ZSG, is now a silent key. She lost her battle with breast cancer. And she was very big in the international D-Star net. So if you've been around D-Star for any length of time, you knew Connie. And if you hung around the Huntsville, Alabama Ham Fest, you probably knew Connie as well because she was always there. And it's a sad loss. So we wanted to mention our condolences, of course, to Connie's friends and family all around the world. And, of course, those with the D-Star, the international D-Star net as well. So Connie Ballantyne, KB0ZSG, a silent key. And our prayers go out to everyone who knew her. Now, let's get into the news of the week from Amateur Radio Newsline. From Amateur Radio Newsline Report, number 2208, these are the Ham Nation headlines for Wednesday, February 26th, 2020. A jury in Chicago has awarded Motorola $765 million in the company's lawsuit against Hytera Communications Corporation.
The award, announced on Friday, February 14th, is the full amount the company had been seeking and includes $345.8 million in compensatory damages and $418.8 million in punitive damages. Motorola claimed the Chinese company stole its trade secrets along with its copyrighted source code for the manufacture of its digital two-way radios. Hytera attorneys said they plan to appeal. The Chinese company filed an antitrust lawsuit against Motorola in December 2017, accusing Motorola in driving out competition in the DMR marketplace. Hytera, a former distributor of Motorola radios, has acknowledged hiring engineers who formerly worked there. Hytera has said, however, it developed its radios independently. Meanwhile, Motorola's attorneys have vowed to seek an order halting the sale of Hytera radios in the United States. The company is also planning to ask for a worldwide injunction, preventing Hytera from further copyright infringement and the use of stolen trade secrets. Motorola Solutions also has a patent infringement case pending against Hytera. That trial is expected to commence later this year or early next year. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Kent Peterson, KC0DGY.
Who's 100 years old this year and still popular on a college campus?
Congratulations and happy 100th birthday to W5YD. That's the call sign for the Mississippi State University Amateur Radio Club. The club received a permit with the call sign 5YD from the U.S. Department of Commerce in 1920. The W was added later by the federal government when it brought all U.S. radio stations into compliance with agreements on station identification around the world. That history makes W5YD one of the oldest continuously active ham radio clubs in the United States. There's another call sign that carries significance in this club's history. It's W5EPW, and it once belonged to school alumnus William P. Gearheiser. Before becoming a silent key in 2004, at the age of 93, he had been a licensed ham for more than 75 years and was at one time the faculty sponsor for the club. As a tribute to him for helping make the club what it is today, club members designated their on-campus meeting room the W.P. Gearheiser Ham Radio Club Room. That honor came just a year before his death. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Andy Morrison, K9AWM.
Now, here's an innovative way to raise money for a museum. Help non-radio people learn what radio is all about.
If you're anywhere near Bellingham in Washington State on the last weekend in February, you might consider joining a celebration of radio discovery and invention to benefit the Spark Museum of Electrical Invention. The museum's artifacts need no words to tell the story of the emergence of radio. The collection includes items dating back to the 17th century through to the golden age of radio. There are Leyden jars, a Hughes telegraph, Edison light bulbs, and early telephones, as well as thousands of radios that include the early Hertzian wave models. There's also a massive collection of various 19th century electromagnetic devices. The museum is hosting its third annual fundraiser and auction on the 29th of February on the campus of Bellingham Technical College. Organizers are calling the program Ignite the Night and hope it allows the museum to continue inspiring the next generation of citizen scientists. Perhaps one day it'll be their innovations joining the collection. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Mike Askins, KE5CXP.
And that's all from the Amateur Radio Newsline, your independent source for amateur radio news for 4 decades and counting at arnewsline.org. With Kent Peterson, KC0DGY, Andy Morrison, K9AWM, Mike Askins, KE5CXP, Karen Eve Murray, KD2GUT at the news desk in New York, and our news team across the globe. I'm Don Wilbanks, AE5DW. 7-3. We'll see you next time here on Ham Nation. Now, here's the solar update from Dr. Tamitha Skov, WX6SWW.
Space weather this week caught us on a bit of a surprise. As we switch to our front side sun, it doesn't look like there's a lot going on, but believe it or not, we did have an Earth-directed solar storm that launched, and when it hit Earth, it bumped us up to storm levels for a short while. That then was followed by a finger-like coronal hole from the south, which gave us some fast solar wind, and that kept us up at active conditions for over the past couple days. And that has brought us some beautiful aurora down to mid-latitudes and got some gorgeous aurora at high latitudes as well. Meanwhile, we now have a couple bright regions that are kind of emerging on the Earth-facing disk, and this is good news for amateur radio operators and emergency responders. However, these regions are not flaring, so that's also good news for space traffic and launch comms. Now, switching to our far-sided sun, this is stereo A, and it's looking at the sun pretty much from the side. You can see that there are 2 bright regions that have emerged in stereo A's view, and one of them looks to be a solar cycle 25 sunspot. So this is good news for amateur radio operators and emergency responders as these 2 regions rotate into Earth view, which should be in about 3, maybe 4 days or so. We could see the solar flux boost up in a little bit higher, maybe even into the mid-70s. And this is probably going to last easily for the next week and then possibly longer before these regions begin to subside. On February 9th, just shortly after the Inouye Solar Telescope revealed the most detailed image of the inner dynamics of our sun, the joint ESA-NASA Solar Orbiter spacecraft was launched on its way to get close and personal with our star. And where was Parker Solar Probe at this time? Making history yet again, with its closest flyby of the sun yet, and no doubt recording more untold stories in its ongoing adventure. Now, although these 3 missions weren't originally designed to work together, an unprecedented collaboration has now begun. Each mission is unique. Parker Solar Probe is the first ever to fly through the sun's atmosphere. The Inouye telescope, called the Microscope of the Sun, is providing ground-based imagery with a higher resolution than even the best space-based solar telescopes. And now, rounding out the 3 is Solar Orbiter that will fly out of the ecliptic plane where all planets in our solar system reside and look down at the parts of the sun we've never been able to see, its northern and southern poles. Not only is Solar Orbiter the first spacecraft to image the poles, it will also be the first to accurately measure the sun's polar magnetic fields. These polar fields are key to understanding how the sun's dynamic engine functions, and it's what we call the solar magnetic dynamo, and how it generates the ever-changing solar activity we call space weather. Switching to your solar storm conditions and aurora possibilities over the coming week, ever since we've been calming down from that solar storm, things have remained a bit unsettled, and we don't really have anything but just tiny pockets of fast solar wind. So at high latitudes, NOAA is expecting unsettled conditions with up to about a 25% chance of a minor storm. Now, mid-latitudes, we're also expecting unsettled conditions, and we have about a 15% chance of active conditions. But as we move through the weekend and into the beginning of next week, we might actually get another chance for some solar storming. Switching to your solar flare and particle radiation storm outlook over the coming week, everything is still in the green when it comes to big solar flares. We have a spotless disk right now, so there's no risk for radio blackouts. So you GPS users, you should continue to enjoy top-notch reception on Earth's day side. Now, we do have a couple bright regions that are going to be rotating into Earth view here in about the next 3 days or so. And so our solar flux, which is sitting in the low 70s right now, by the beginning of next week could possibly rise up into the mid-70s. And this is great news for amateur radio operators and emergency responders. You guys might get some decent radio propagation on Earth's day side, and those conditions could last maybe in through, I don't know, the end of next week or so if these regions stay pretty strong like they look like they're going to. Now, also because we're at solar minimum, we have a higher cosmic ray impingement than we normally would, and so you frequent flyers, and this does include aircrew who fly over 800 hours annually and fly at high latitudes and high altitudes, you are in the marginal range for radiation dose, and this does include prenatal passengers, so please take this into consideration in your flight plans. For more details on this week's space weather, including when and where to see aurora, and more fascinating insights on the Solar Orbiter mission, come check out my channel or see me at spaceweatherwoman.com.
Good stuff. Thank you, Dr. T. Always happy to have her be a part of the Newsline crew and the Ham Nation crew, and just to be a ham in general. She's awesome, and we certainly appreciate her. Make sure you follow her on Twitter, @TamithaScove. Let's talk about DX Engineering, because the spring ham radio season is right around the corner, literally. I mean, it's almost here. And now, of course, time to get your station ready and in top shape. And DX Engineering makes it easier than ever to order antennas and towers, as well as replacement parts and accessories for an existing tower. If you're in the tower market, DX Engineering offers American Tower Company galvanized steel sections, bases, brackets, and accessories. Their Amorite brand towers work well in self-supporting guide or bracketed installations. Of course, they are also an authorized Roan distributor. That means that you get access to the entire Roan line at DX Engineering. The legendary 25G, 45G, and 55G galvanized steel towers are available, plus telescoping masts, base plates, guy wire, tower harness, and a whole lot more. Tower hardware and a whole lot more. And TBX towers let you build an affordable, self-supporting stamped steel tower, perfect for spaces that cannot accommodate a guide tower. DX Engineering offers self-supporting aluminum tower packages from Universal Towers. They feature heavy wall tubing legs and welded S bracing. Years of dependable service. And DX Engineering also carries a full lineup of tower accessories. High-strength, high-insulation, Filastrand, non-metallic tower guy lines give you significant advantages over steel, including elimination of electromagnetic and RF interference. Filastrand makes the steel big grip dead ends for easy completion of guying installations. And choose from DX Engineering Filastrand tail kits to protect your non-metallic guy lines, turnbuckles to help build your tensioning system, advanced design thrust bearings, heavy-duty masks, antenna accessory shelves, and a whole lot more. And finally, boost station performance with an HF Yagi antenna from DX Engineering to put on top of that newly regenerated tower. Their lineup includes DX Engineering's own 2015 10-meter Skyhawk and 17 and 12-meter Skylark rugged E-antenna Yagis, exclusively available in North America from DX Engineering, and more than 65 German-engineered HF directional antennas from Optibeam. Many popular Optibeam models are in stock, and they're ready for fast shipment. DX Engineering ships faster than anybody else in the industry, so if you get your ground shipping order in by 10 p.m. Eastern tonight, and it's in stock, it'll be on a truck heading your way tonight. With its proven products and expert advice, DX Engineering is helping you shrink the globe. Request your catalog or shop online 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at dxengineering.com/hamnation. And we, of course, thank DX Engineering for their support of Ham Nation. Val, pretty exciting news around the Newsline camp. The Young Ham of the Year nominating period opens March 1st for the Bill Pasternak WA6 ITF. Right there it is right there. Young Ham of the Year. Boy, it's weird seeing that going backwards. There it is. There's his call sign. So Bill Pasternak WA6 ITF Memorial Young Ham of the Year Award nominating form can be found at arnewsline.org beginning March 1st. You got 90 days to get your deserving Young Ham nominated, and then we'll see you in August at the Huntsville Ham Fest for the awards presentation. Val, we could not be more excited around here.
I don't know what happens when they win that Young Ham of the Year award, but they just seem to take off after that. I mean, look what happened to Marty and Bryant, and it's like they sprinkle ham radio dust on them, and away they go in the hobby. So
it's crazy.
Yeah, that's such a good award. And you know what else is coming up?
Bryant is one of the professors Bryant's one of the professors at the Contest University with Tim Duffy. Yeah. So, couldn't be more proud. It's
crazy. So that's such a good award, and it's such a great way to recognize the youth in the hobby. So look forward to that. And coming up, we got a lot of, I'm under a winter weather advisory right now, and but spring, daylight savings is coming up, and spring's not too far around the corner. So with that, we have Storm become a official trained storm spotter. So I'm going to kind of go over that right now. We got a little bit of DX, so go ahead and roll that video, Victor.
Okay, here's your DX report for the week of February 23rd. A lot of DX going out there right now. Just kidding. Just one major DX expedition going on, South Orkney, Victor Papa 8, Papa Japan. Now, originally was going to try and Skype with them. They're having some definite internet satellite issues, so that's not going to happen. But just go to sorkney.com and you can get information on them. They're going to be there through the 6th. This weekend is a really fun contest, NAQP RIDI, and you only need 100 watts for that, and it's domestic, so you don't have to have one of those super antenna farms like some people I know to have fun. So let's get into the meat and potatoes, what I want to talk about tonight, and that's the Storm Spotter training that's going to be up and coming in your area right about now. So if you want to become an official Storm Spotter, you need to go through this weather.gov/Skywarn, and that's in conjunction with the National Weather Service, NOAA, Skywarn, and then Comet MedEd, which stands for Meteorology Education. So what do you need to do to become a storm spotter? Well, it depends on your local municipality. Everyone is a little bit different. Now, if I go through Oklahoma, they want you to complete some online training modules as well as their basic training modules through YouTube, and you can participate in webinars or their local registration, and then register with a spotting network. But say you wanted to go through the Chicagoland, then it's a little bit lighter. You just need to read some background information, attend a local course, and find out locally from your coordinator about the local spotting network in your community. And then you have to retrain every 2 years. So how do you know what's required in your local area? Well, the best way to go is through this website, the Skywarn website, the link I gave you, and you'll see how to get in contact with your local coordinator. That's the best way, because you may find something on the website that gives it to you, but it may not be updated. So email that person, find out what's required in order to be a spotter. So you go there, click this, and it's going to take you to a map of the United States. Click on your state, and then it'll bring up all the counties. Click on your county, and then you should be able to contact your local coordinator. Now, once you know what you need to do, say they want you to take a local course, you can just go right here, back to that main page, click that, and it'll bring you to another map. And this, you'll click your state, click your county or area, and then it's going to list all the local classes and when they're coming up. You can click on any one of these classes and it'll give you full details if you need to register, where it's located, and you can go ahead and get ready for those classes. Now, if you are required to take one of the online courses or a couple of the online courses, or say you missed the last class and they gave you permission to do the online courses, or maybe you're homebound and can only do the online courses, this is where you can do that. Click that. It's going to take you to the Comet MedEd site. And what I just did is put in Storm Spotter in the search bar, and then popped the courses that are available. Now you click on the courses that's required for your municipality, and then when you click on that, it's going to give you the option to hit enroll. So click enroll, and it's going to take you then to a registration screen. So go ahead and register, and when you get to the bottom, make sure you put in the email of your local coordinator, as well as clicking the box so it sends him notices that you've taken the course and that you've passed the quizzes. And then so you'll be certified trained. Now here's where it gets tricky. You want to go back and log in now that you have registered, and you want to click the tab My MedEd, and then you want to click My Courses, that tab right there. And then once you do that, it'll list the courses that you enrolled in earlier. So go ahead and click all that, and it'll bring you to this page that lists your course. Now go all the way down to the bottom of this page, and that's where you'll see your course outline. And there may be more than one or a bunch of them, and click on the first one, and then that's going to take you to this page, which tells you to begin your course, and that's where you can take your quizzes and everything like that. So kind of confusing, but it's easy once you do that, and when you're done, you go back, take the next course in the outline, which is all in the same course. You may have multiple outlines for that course. So once completed, you're ready to go. Now you may want to register with the Spotter Network, or maybe your municipality asks you to, or you can just do it on your own. If your municipality asks you to, they might have the link right here, and you can click that and it'll take you here. If it doesn't, you can just go to spotternetwork.org. And this is sort of an outside spotter network. It's where all the weather spotters, storm chasers, everybody comes together in one coordinated place. Now there's a place for you to register here as well and get all set up for the Spotter Network. They also have their own training on here as well. And then so you can go ahead and take this training, get registered, and you're all set up on this Spotter Network, which is a lot of fun. So there you go. Hopefully you guys do this, and let's go save some lives, okay?
Yeah, it seems hard because yeah, so I saw some classes already start this week. So make sure you check it out right away when you see this video if you want to go. And a lot of them you have to keep up every 2 years. Also, I just want to say about the RIDI contest. If you've never done RIDI before, this might be a fun one to try with. And you know who's got some great videos on getting set up with RIDI? And that's Randy, our own Randy, K7AGE. If you go to YouTube and type in K7AGE and RTTY, he's got probably good 5 or 6 videos on RIDI. And it's once you get it set up, it's fairly easy. And a lot of radios are super easy to set it up now. So why don't you go ahead and do that, and maybe I'll see you guys on the air for RIDI. So that's all I've got for this week. I'm going to pass it off to Amanda and see what she's got cooking in the chat room.
Oh, boy. I had so much content tonight, a lot for Gordo with the GROL, your General Radio Operator's License. But Val, the first question actually is for you. Let's see, who was it? WB3 BJU Don wants to know, how on LOTW do I download all of my QSOs instead of just the QSLs?
You know, I've never get your ADIF file from LOTW to put into some software he has on his computer. I don't know if there's a way. Yeah, I mean, I only send QSOs to LOTW. I never pull them off. You know, a lot of your software sets it up to sync and pull, the QSL confirmation back to your screen. But I have never pulled back, the QSOs from LOTW back to me.
Yeah. And I got to be honest, I think I did that one time because I wanted to fill out some QSL cards from work. And I thought, I'll just go to LOTW and I'll pull them down. And I don't think I could find a way to do that, honestly.
Yeah, I don't know if there is one. There's probably a backdoor way that, because this, like DX Lab Suite goes in and somehow pulls the QSL, and QRZ logbook does as well. Mm-hmm. And and I think Club Log, they have the syncing key. So there's got to be a way to get in there and get that, but I really don't know how you do it. Sorry, mate.
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully you have it in another place too. You can pull it off. because like EQSL, you can pull off your ADIF. A lot of other places you can do that.
And I think the other thing, even if you could pull it off, I'm not sure it's going to show you logged signal reports. So if that was important to you for some reason, I still don't think it's going to show that. If even it might show the frequencies on the band, but I don't think it's going to show everything you want to know for your QSOs for sure. So
and luck. My LOTW is garbage, because if I find out I goof somebody's call and then fix it and put the new one in, you can't take the old one out. So there's a lot of garbage in there, so it's really not a good place to pull from. Email me and maybe, let me know where you've put your log, and I can probably help you, maybe other than LOTW, retrieve it if you need. nv9l@arrl.net. Give me an email.
There you go. Well, thanks, Val, for that. And
Welcome.
Okay, so Gordo, we have a bunch of questions about the general radio license, so I'm going to just get with it here. The first one is, if you have a GROL, do you need a transportation worker ID card to go aboard a commercial boat?
All right, that's a good question. And by the way, Valerie, I'm one of the storm spotters as well. And for logs, sorry about that, but we're still paper, although logbooks of the world are the best. No, aboard the small passenger vessels. Now, these are those under 100 tons that provide a tremendous amount of need for inspectors of their radio. You do not need the transportation certificate. However, going aboard commercial large vessels, then you need a lot more training, global marine distress safety system, and so on. So that's a good observation by those watching. But no, for the small passenger vessels, in other words, the ships that just cruise maybe out to 20 miles for sport fishing as well as whale watching, they do not need that particular card. You just need your FCC GROL to get aboard.
Well, very good. That answers that very directly. The next question was from Roy, KA4HOT. And he says, I'd like to know where I can take my GROL. And he lives in Huntsville, Alabama. I'm going to assume that maybe there's a directory on a website.
There is, and probably the most up-to-date directory is from the W5YI group, and all they have to do is, if they want to make a phone call, it's 800-669-9594, 1-800-669-9594, and they can ask any one of the very nice ladies exactly where to take the exam. And GROL license holders that have held a license for a year or so that are really involved can easily become examiners themselves, much like the ham radio VEC system. So he will have no problem in finding a local exam for elements 1 and 3 and the others.
Oh, well, that brings up a great subject. So it is it's all volunteer. These people are not paid to do this, and they kind of conglomerate depending on request or need. Is that correct?
Right. That is absolutely correct, Amanda.
Okay, great. And the next question, we just wanted you to verify the xbeacon.org's website.
Okay, and I'll read it. And by the way, what's really behind the X Beacon are all the kids that have such finite eyesight to be able to put some of these little tiny micro ICs together. But there's different degrees of kits. So if you've got kids, Dave and Heather are concentrating on getting more kids beyond just working a handheld, but into building projects. And the hidden transmitters are great projects. The website is X as an X-ray -beacon.org. X-beacon.org. That's the correct site. Dave and Heather. And if you want to contact the main ladies and gentlemen behind this, David and Heather, David at xbeacon.org. Go ahead.
Great. Well, thank you, Gordo, for that. We really appreciate it. And that I don't know how those kiddos can do that, but they're amazing. So
kids are.
Quite amazing. All right, and good luck with those fox hunts there. Find that Zippo non-lighter. I love the sound effects, by the way. All right, one more thing, Gordo. This is just a compliment for you. Bill, WZ1L wanted you to know that this weekend they had their amateur testing, and one, I think it was a fellow. Let me double check. I don't know if it was a guy or a gal. Whoever it was, they were awesome because they passed all 3 tests in one day because of your books. And he wanted you to know that.
That is great. But as all instructors will say, you're not really a ham until you've been on the air. You've had a chance to work Amanda and other radio operators throughout the country, whether it's 2 meters or 20 meters. Get on the air and use those privileges. That's when you turn into a great ham. In fact, Amanda, next week, the amateur television network operators throughout the country are all going to Skype in to one station. That's Roland and Gary, and they're going to Skype in right here next week, and we'll learn all about the excitement of high definition or standard definition amateur radio television over the ham airwaves.
I can't wait. You know, I hear a group of those people every Saturday and Sunday when I want to tune through 20 and see what's going on. I hear them on 20 meters. I hear their signal. I know they stay in this very itty-bitty little portion. And one of these days, I'm going to take the time to decode some of their stuff and see what they're sending, because I really look forward to that. But thanks, Gordo. We really look forward to that. It's going to be a learning lesson for a lot of us, I believe.
Oh, and Amanda, I just want to compliment you and all the ladies for putting on what I still hear about on the internet as one of the best ladies' night here on Ham Nation. Thank you, Amanda.
No, well, thank the ladies. Valerie, first of all, and Jerry and Amy, who are going on a cruise. Those girls are going on the funnest cruise ever. I just have to talk about this. They're going on a gamers cruise where it's all about tabletop gaming. And I hope to invite them back so that they come and tell us about their cruise and all of the fun projects that they did, because it looks like a blast. Hopefully the coronavirus doesn't keep them from going, because it looks like a lot of fun. But also Melanie from DX Engineering and Karen Eve Murray, and we can't forget Dr. T. So they were the ones that made the show for sure. And we really appreciated hosting it for all of you viewers out there. All right. Let's see. George, I just didn't have any questions for you. Hopefully you're going to have all of those Arduino videos separate or put together for everyone to view on YouTube, correct?
I hadn't thought about that. So I don't know. We'll have to see. I kind of given them to Twit. So, you know, it's they're all there. You can watch them online at twit.tv or on the Twit YouTube page. They're all right in there. And then you got to watch some of the rest of Ham Nation too. Well, at least to find your location there. A great show tonight.
Oh, George, I wanted to interrupt and just say, I've heard so many nice comments over the internet over your AND gates and NAND gates. That's topics in the extra class question pool, and you made it clear as a bell. Thank you, George.
Hey, George.
Well,
thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And we'll look at some more of that kind of stuff in the future. I'm going to do something different for at least the next week or two. We'll look at some other things as well, because I know not everybody's interested in doing that type of thing, but it really is a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. Well, Bob should be back with us next week. He was in Pleasant Hope tonight doing his final move out of the home out there and back into Illinois, where he'll be joining us then. And, wow, thanks to Don for being here as well. Before we get out of here, any final words, Gordo?
No, I was sending a note to Victor. For those on Ham Nation watching or listening, We have a technical editor that's right there at the controls. Victor, you are amazing. Thank you, Victor, for all you do to keep us on the air. And I believe next week, Bob and maybe Leo and team will be together. And this will be a great time for the Amateur Television Network to say, wow, thanks for having us on board. They are great. Back to you, George.
I think Gordo just released a spoiler. I had not heard that, but I know where Leo is going to be next week. So now I'm really thrilled if that's going to actually work out.
Cool. Yeah, that's kind of a spoiler. I didn't know that either. And speaking of Victor and handling all the knobs there at the studio, you know, sometimes he knows what we're thinking even before we do, it seems like.
That's true.
Because he's always right there. We start talking about a topic that maybe you don't know what it is, and then all of a sudden Victor pops up.
Right.
A graphic out there. That really helps. And he's got the bells and all handy. And, you know, when Don's here, he's got the censored slide as well. Val, any final notes from you tonight?
Yeah, we need like those, you know, when they used to have the little pictures of the little, you know, like little devil or angel on your shoulder. I see a little Victor right there. Yeah, I just want to say, make sure you get storm spotter trained coming up next couple of weeks. Already even up in the north here, so very important that we do our duty to help keep people safe, and that's one of the reasons we get the frequencies and allocations we have is because we really push public service in that respect too. So that's all I've got. Hopefully I'll see you guys in a couple weeks. Make sure you get the VP8 Papa Japan guys. So before you never know when a storm could come and they got to bug out of there right away. So don't wait till the end to work those guys. So that's all I've got. Hopefully I'll see you guys in a couple weeks.
Well, wait, Val, how many times do you have them logged?
How many times do I have them?
Yeah.
Is that what you said?
Yeah. Brag. Come on.
Oh my God. I think I have them on every band slot they've been on so far, I think. So
wow.
A lot.
Wow.
It's a lot. I just worked him on 40 phone about an hour before I got on the air here. So he was doing it by the numbers. I was the first 9 to get through.
Sweet. Congratulations. Unfortunately, Gordo, you're going to feel our pain here. Our A4S just took a dive on us. We have to lower it and check the traps. We're hoping that it was just a snow thing and moisture, and maybe after it dries out, it will work just fine, but it's not looking good.
No. Do not fear. Do not fear. I want you to know that after every rainstorm, my A4S goes wacko. And I know I got the drip holes down, but it just goes nuts. And I thought, oh, no, another tower job. And then I see it down at 6.2 to 6.5 to 6.9. Luckily to 7.2 to hear our great net controllers following up. So, Amanda, who do we have for net control, and where are they tonight?
Great question, Gordo. First of all, the D-Star net is going to be very special tonight. They're dedicating it to Connie, KB0ZSG. So everyone, please try to check in there if you can on 14 Charlie. We're going to have the DMR net on 31012. And we got the 40-meter net on 7192. Kevin's back in business, so everyone go tell him how good his new station sounds. And we've got 3902 for the 75-meter net, where we have our trusty old Steve, W7UDI, handing out the contacts. So that's what I've got for tonight. George?
Okay, Amanda. And I'm going to try to make some of those nets tonight.
Wow.
That is, if I can get my hotspot to cooperate. I've had some issues with it the last few weeks. So
has
I may
Jeff.
just have to.
I just have to say, Jeff's been traveling. He was in Portland, and he brought his hotspot, and he's had some difficulties getting it to connect and some weird factions there. But he also thinks that it was hotel Wi-Fi. But good luck.
Yeah. Well, I'm not in a hotel, so I can rule that out here. But Yeah. Well, thanks for being here tonight, everyone. Great to have you with us. Join us again next week at the same time for another Ham Nation, when Bob will be back with us, and I don't know, maybe some special guests as well. 7-3.